Breaking new details just into our newsroom in the last few minutes. It's about the deadly officer-involved shooting in South Omaha that we brought to you as breaking news yesterday evening. Police have just identified the man killed in that incident as 55-year-old Michael Strain. Investigators say Strain got agitated during an attempted eviction near 19th and Bancroft yesterday morning, leading to an extended standoff. Officers reported hearing what sounded like Strain manipulating and loading a gun, and he allegedly said, quote, "If anyone comes into this room, someone will die today." A crisis negotiator responded to the scene, but attempts to persuade Strain to surrender were not successful. Then around 4 yesterday afternoon, OPD's SWAT team approached the residence using a piece of heavy equipment called a Rook. While trying to breach the residence, Strain allegedly opened fire with a rifle. 4 OPD SWAT team members fired back, 2 using lethal force weapons and 2 using less lethal chemical munitions. Medics pronounced Strain dead at the scene, and it was determined he had died from a single gunshot wound to the head. OPD did not say whether an officer fired the fatal shot. A search of the home found several additional guns and thousands of bullets. OPD says 5 officers have now been placed on paid leave per department policy.